The 5-day United Nations Environment Assembly gathering in Nairobi has come to a close, but negotiations are still ongoing to come up with draft resolutions. UNEP's Executive Director Achim Steiner said at least 25 draft resolutions had been submitted by member states for consideration by committees to prepare them for adoption. Among the highlights of the week's summit were discussions on sustainable development goals, wildlife trafficking and air quality. Environment ministers and representatives from 170 member states, including business leaders and non-governmental organizations, were also in attendance.
As of this afternoon, on the vast majority, we have completed work. There has been very significant progress. I will not take you through the individual ones now. I'll just give you a sense of spectrum. It ranges from, the Samoan pathway, which is giving UNEP and environmental bodies a direction in terms of implementing the outcomes of the Samoan Summit on Small Island Developing Nations. It ranges through issues such as pastoralism. It ranges through debates about natural capital and its role in sustainable development. The phenomenon of sand and dust storms, which is growing very rapidly in certain regions of the world and can sometimes, shut down entire cities, airports, close schools for days.
Well, CCTV's Robert Nagila has been following proceedings for us at the UNEA summit. He's joining me here in studio. Robert, the summit has come to a close. Can you walk us through the realizations at the summit and what still remains contentious?
Well, thank you, Beatrice. I really wish I could, but unfortunately it's still a bit too early. Behind the scenes, there's still a lot of work going on. So they're not ready yet with the resolutions themselves. I know that from the outside we always have this perception that once they get together, especially at these UN meetings, they vote on an issue and then it's adopted. However, it's much more complicated than that. Immediately they decide on a particular issue, then it goes back to a committee which comes up with a particular text which has to then be circulated amongst the member states. They have to agree on that. Those with problems then give their version. It goes back to the draft again. As we are speaking, over the last 5 days, according to the UNEP Executive Director, we're looking at about 25 draft resolutions. Now, the fact that we're talking about environment, that is huge, huge. However, they're not ready yet. There's going to be a lot of people burning the candle, the midnight candle tonight, so to speak, in preparation for these resolutions themselves.
They're going to be likely to come up with about 25 resolutions, but do we know exactly when that could happen, when that could be adopted?
Well, from what I gather, and I spoke to the UNEP Executive Director this afternoon, that's Achim Steiner, and he says that they expect to send a statement to various media houses and put out something on their website as well tomorrow. So looks like they're hard at work at it, trying to make sure that they have the right wording for this. And it does appear as well, from what we can gather, that there were quite a few contentious issues, so to speak, that they had not agreed on, and that's part of the reason why there was a delay, because some of the delegates had to go back then again, come up with something that was acceptable, that they could get a consensus amongst all the delegates there, as the ministers, non-governmental organizations, the business parties, for them to enable them to move forward.
Right. Obviously, there's going to be some consensus to be reached on the contentious issues there, though. But what is going to happen next going forward? Do we know about that?
Well, we know that there seems to be a consensus. We're waiting for the exact wording on whatever resolutions will come out on this. There appears to be a consensus on illegal wildlife trade. The Kenyan president on Thursday, when he was speaking, dedicated at least a quarter of his speech on this particular issue. It's just a month ago that Kenya destroyed its ivory stockpiles. And very interesting from the president. He says that at the CITES conference in South Africa later this year, Kenya is going to push for a total ban on ivory and rhino tasks as well. So that is huge. There appears to be a consensus on illegal wildlife trade. We also had that there is now evidence to show that this contributes to insecurity. It's a national security threat around Africa and many parts of the world as well. Air quality. There appears to be a consensus on that. There was a lot of praise for China on this particular subject, on the steps it's taken to rectify the situation there. We know that there's heavy smoke that they get in that part of the world. So there are quite a few agreements on quite a few issues, SDGs as well, and what needs to be done to achieve the goals that were set, the targets that were set. However, it's only until tomorrow that we will have a proper idea on exactly what was agreed on and what they carry forward to UNEA 3.
Right, Robert Nagila, thank you for your insights there on the UNEA Assembly.